Since the dawn of civilization, humanity has sought answers to the deepest questions of existence. Could the greatest achievements in history, from the rise of empires to modern technological advances, really be only the result of human ingenuity? Or did hidden forces, inexplicable alliances, and mysterious pacts shape the course of our destiny? Welcome to another night where mysteries never sleep. I am Midnight, and this is 7 Nights. Accounts from various cultures mention entities that offer knowledge and power in exchange for something valuable. But who are these forces? And what did it cost us to make these pacts? More importantly, are we still paying the price? Humanity's history is filled with accounts suggesting a direct connection between the ancients and superior forces. In Sumer, one of the world's first civilizations, there are intriguing records about the Anunnaki, beings who, according to the clay tablets found in archaeological sites, came from the skies to teach humans. But why would a civilization so advanced for its time need external help? This is the golden question. Did the Sumerians already have a premium partnership with forces from above, or did someone here underestimate their cosmic neighbors? Sumerian texts describe the Anunnaki as gods who granted humanity the knowledge needed to develop agriculture, writing, and even basic concepts of astronomy. What stands out is the precision with which these skills were transmitted and the speed at which Sumer rose above other cultures of the same era. Was this a coincidence? One of the most intriguing theories suggests that the Anunnaki not only taught, but also genetically manipulated human beings. The famous Sumerian creation myth, known as the Enuma Elish, states that man was created to serve the gods by working to extract resources that would be sent to the skies. This could be a metaphor for spiritual subjugation, but what if it's something more literal? Moreover, the ziggurats, Sumer's iconic temples, are described as houses that connect heaven and earth. Did these monumental constructions function solely as religious centers, or might they have been portals, as some scholars suggest? And why did so many subsequent civilizations replicate similar structures, such as the pyramids in Egypt and Central America? Another point that sparks curiosity is the dependency described in the texts. The Anunnaki demanded obedience and sacrifices in exchange for their teachings. This doesn't seem much different from the religious practices that arose in later cultures. Was worship a way to sustain these forces, ensuring that the pact was continuously renewed? Interestingly, Sumerian records also mention figures like Enki and Enlil, gods with conflicting interests regarding humanity. While Enki seemed willing to help humans, Enlil was portrayed as harsh, viewing them as an inferior race. Could this duality reflect an internal dispute among these entities about the terms of the contract established with humans? In contemporary times, the Anunnaki have gained ground in conspiracy theories that connect their deeds to modern mysteries, such as the emergence of technology. Some theorists suggest that the most disruptive inventions in our history could be the result of an anonymous influence, a remnant of that ancestral pact. Is it possible that we are still being guided by these forces? An intriguing parallel can be drawn between Sumerian accounts and other ancient texts, such as the Book of Enoch, which mentions the Nephilim, a race of giants born from the union between fallen angels and human women. Both narratives describe a forbidden transmission of knowledge, always at a cost. Why do so many cultures separated by time and space report such similar events? Archaeology, in turn, continues trying to unravel how the Sumerians achieved such cultural and technological sophistication. There is no concrete evidence of a clear evolutionary process to explain how these people managed to develop such advanced technologies. Does this strengthen the idea of external intervention? Another fascinating aspect is the longevity attributed to Sumerian kings in the Sumerian king lists, documents that mention monarchs who ruled for thousands of years. It's logical to ask, were these figures human or representatives of the superior forces that sealed the pacts? Even more intriguing is the link between the Anunnaki and modern theories about ancient aliens. Astronomers and researchers like Zecharia Sitchin argue that these gods might have been visitors from other planets. However, could this be a way of diverting our attention from a more spiritual, perhaps interdimensional phenomenon? The clay tablets describing the Anunnaki also mention the idea of a human revolt, a moment when humans, tired of their servitude, attempted to break away from their creators. Could this revolt have initiated a cycle of consequences that still resonate in our times? The relationship with the Anunnaki is merely one piece of the larger puzzle about spiritual pacts. Although many dismiss these stories as myths, they point to something much deeper, an exchange dynamic that, in some way, continues to define humanity. If we accept that the Anunnaki influenced the dawn of civilization, what does that say about the rest of our history? Is human progress intrinsically tied to contracts with forces beyond our comprehension? In ancient Egypt, power was more than political, it was divine. The pharaohs, considered incarnate gods, ruled as mediators between the world of the living and the realm of the gods. Incarnate gods, or representatives of a greater force. In the end, everyone wants to be the boss of the game. But what sustained this connection? Were the pharaohs merely human leaders, or was there something deeper in their relationship with the spiritual? The Book of the Dead, one of ancient Egypt's best-known works, details complex funeral rites that guaranteed the pharaoh not only eternal life, but also ongoing spiritual control. These rites involved reciting magical formulas, offerings, and preserving the body through mummification. Yet the question remains, to whom were these rituals truly directed? Many scholars believe that the Egyptian gods represented forces of nature or psychological archetypes. However, there is evidence suggesting direct interaction between the pharaohs and entities that demanded devotion in exchange for power. What these gods offered was more than spiritual protection. It was the assurance that Egypt would remain an unshakable power. Curiously, the pyramids, constructions that defy modern understanding, are often associated with these spiritual contracts. In addition to serving as tombs for the pharaohs, the pyramids also held profound symbolic meaning. They pointed skyward, indicating a direct connection between Earth and the cosmos. Were these gigantic structures points of contact or exchange between humans and superior entities? The Sphinx, on the other hand, guards even deeper mysteries. Located beside the pyramids, this structure is surrounded by theories about its true function. Some suggest it was a spiritual guardian, protecting secrets of a pact sealed thousands of years ago. But what secrets could be so important as to deserve such monumental protection? Egyptian gods like Ra, Osiris, and Isis played distinct roles in maintaining cosmic balance. Among them, Osiris is particularly intriguing. He represented the cycle of death and rebirth and was associated with the idea of final judgment. Through him, Egypt reinforced the notion that every human act carried spiritual consequences. But what if this final judgment was, in fact, a form of control, ensuring that humans remained bound to the terms of the contract? Another fascinating aspect of Egyptian spirituality was the role of the heart in the afterlife. During judgment, the heart of the deceased was weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of justice. If the heart was lighter, the deceased was admitted into paradise. But why this emphasis on the heart? Could it be that the heart symbolized more than emotions, perhaps a spiritual marker, a direct reflection of obedience to the contract? The involvement of the pharaohs with superior forces wasn't limited to the afterlife. During their reign, they participated in both public and private rituals to renew the divine pact. The said festival, celebrated after 30 years of rule, was one such ritual. The pharaoh, through symbolic ceremonies, reaffirmed his power as the representative of the gods on earth. But who really demanded this renewal of power? Theories suggest that pharaohs may have served as intermediaries between humans and interdimensional forces. Ancient texts mention the land of Duat, a spiritual realm accessible only to certain souls. Could it be that pharaohs, through meditations or specific rituals, visited this realm to renew contracts that kept Egypt in balance? The idea of eternal contracts was not exclusive to the pharaohs. The Egyptian population also participated in ceremonies to feed the gods. Which leads us to question, did these religious practices benefit humans, or were they a way to sustain superior forces? Another intriguing point is the repetition of esoteric symbols in Egypt, such as the Eye of Horus and the Ankh. These symbols were used in amulets, temple walls, and even on the crowns of pharaohs. But were they mere religious representations, or did they serve as signatures of a spiritual contract? There is also debate about figures like Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh. During his reign, he tried to replace the Egyptian pantheon with a monotheistic cult to the god Aten. This radical change was widely rejected, and after his death, his reforms were erased from Egyptian history. Could Akhenaten have attempted to break an ancient pact, challenging forces that demanded collective devotion? The tombs of the pharaohs, discovered over the centuries, reveal an obsession with spiritual protection. But what exactly were the pharaohs protecting? Was it only their journey in the afterlife, or something deeper, perhaps the maintenance of a balance that upheld the contract itself? Ancient Egypt remains a fascinating enigma, with its spiritual practices and gigantic monuments leaving more questions than answers. But if anything is clear, it's that its culture was deeply rooted in the idea of exchange between humans and superior forces. Did the pharaohs really hold control over their destinies, or were they merely pieces in a larger game, led by invisible forces? King Solomon is one of the most intriguing figures in biblical history, described as the wisest man who ever lived. His fame extends beyond wisdom to mastery over spiritual forces. The Testament of Solomon, an apocryphal text shrouded in mystery, describes how he commanded 72 demons using a magical ring given by God. But was this power a divine gift, or did Solomon strike a deal with dark entities? This ring, called the Seal of Solomon, allowed him to control the spirits and force them to work on constructing the legendary Temple of Solomon. The temple, considered one of the greatest works of antiquity, held not only religious but also symbolic significance. Some theorists suggest that it was more than just a place of worship, perhaps an energetic center or a spiritual machine capable of connecting the physical and the spiritual worlds. Would this explain the precision and enigmatic purpose of its construction? A temple so enigmatic that to this day no one knows if it was just for praying or to turn on the cosmic Wi-Fi. Solomon's domination over demons raises a fundamental question. Why would such a wise king accept help from forces that, elsewhere in the Bible, are deemed God's adversaries? Does it indicate that Solomon, knowingly or not, participated in a more complex pact, where power came with a hidden price? The descriptions of the demons he controlled are surprisingly detailed in the Testament. Each one had a specific function, from manipulating the elements to influencing the human mind. But what did Solomon offer these entities in return for their obedience? Was it merely the chance to work under his orders, or was there a greater tribute behind it all? Curiously, the temple was destroyed more than once throughout history, and each reconstruction seemed to bring even more symbolism. This suggests the place held a unique spiritual meaning, something that might have transcended Solomon himself. Could the temple have been the central point of a contract between humans and higher forces? What makes this story even more intriguing is that Solomon, despite his wisdom, was not immune to spiritual temptations. According to the Bible, he went astray, worshiping other gods and engaging in rituals deemed forbidden. Were these deviations the result of his constant exposure to forces he couldn't fully control? The Book of Kings mentions that Solomon amassed unimaginable wealth, wives, and political alliances. But was this abundance merely the result of his diplomatic skill, or the reflection of a pact that granted him earthly power in exchange for spiritual submission? After all, there is a fine line between wisdom and the corruption of power. Another fascinating point is that the Temple of Solomon became one of the most recurring symbols in secret societies, such as the Freemasons. This mystical order values the symbolism of the temple as an archetype of human betterment. But what do the Freemasons know about the temple's true purpose? Are they preserving the knowledge of a hidden contract? Solomon is also associated with alchemy, the practice of transforming matter and seeking the philosopher's stone. Some scholars believe he mastered spiritual secrets that went beyond physical construction. Could the Temple of Solomon be a metaphor for the human being itself, a reflection of the spiritual transformation he achieved? Exploring the connections between Solomon and hidden forces, we see parallels with other accounts of spiritual pacts. As with the story of the Anunnaki and the pharaohs, we again find the idea of exchange, power in exchange for something valuable. Did the cost of this exchange echo through later generations, even influencing the temple's destruction? The Testament of Solomon describes how, at the end of his life, he regretted using spiritual powers irresponsibly. Perhaps he realized too late the price of his contract. This narrative suggests that even those who reach the pinnacle of power may be consumed by the forces they help invoke. Modern archaeology still searches for concrete evidence of the temple's existence. While some ruins in Jerusalem are pointed to as remnants, many believe that its construction and destruction were more symbolic than historical. If that's the case, what does that say about the spiritual contract the temple symbolizes? Conspiracy theories also link Solomon to groups still seeking power through spiritual pacts. Books like the Grand Grimoire describe rituals to summon entities that, coincidentally, resemble the demons mentioned in the Testament of Solomon. Could it be that Solomon's knowledge was never completely lost? If we consider Solomon an intermediary between humans and higher forces, his story leads us to an unsettling conclusion. Absolute power always comes with a hidden price. Even for the wisest king, the line between good and evil was thin and often hard to discern. Did Solomon know from the start that he was trapped in a contract impossible to break, or did he believe he could manipulate forces beyond his comprehension? Throughout history, sacrifice has been a constant element in cultures across the globe. From offerings of fruit and animals to the most extreme act, human sacrifice, rituals performed in the name of the gods carry a powerful message. Nothing is given without something in return. But what was truly being sought behind these practices? In Babylon, the god Marduk demanded continuous sacrifices to maintain order. Ancient texts suggest the practice wasn't just an act of faith, but a means of channeling spiritual energy. What happened to this energy? Was it used by the gods or stored in some kind of energy bank that sustained the structure of the spiritual contract between humans and higher forces? Ziggurats, the monumental temples of Mesopotamia, are described as connecting points between heaven and earth. Were these structures merely places of worship, or did they function as portals through which humans interacted directly with unknown forces? Their architecture, always directed upward, seems to suggest more than simple adoration. In Central America, the Maya and Aztecs took the concept of sacrifice to extreme levels. At the top of their pyramids, hearts were ripped out in rituals that aimed to nourish the gods and ensure the world's continuity. Was this obsession with sacrifice a necessity imposed by higher forces, or did the priests understand something that escapes most of us? Blood, in particular, appears as a central element in sacrifice rituals. In various cultures, blood is described as the carrier of vital essence, the force connecting the physical to the spiritual. But why was blood so valued in these pacts? Could it be because it contains something beyond the tangible, perhaps a frequency or energy serving as a direct payment to invisible forces? In Egypt, rituals such as the opening of the mouth, performed at funerals, aimed to activate the spiritual senses of the deceased for their journey in the afterlife. But why were so many efforts dedicated to these rites? Were they merely symbolic ceremonies, or was there a real attempt to maintain the bond between the living and the gods? In ancient Greece, oracles like the famous Oracle of Delphi were sacred places where priestesses in trance delivered messages from the gods. However, some theories suggest these messages may not have come from benevolent gods. Who or what truly spoke through these women? And why did so many crucial decisions for the Greek city-states depend on these communications? The idea of spiritual portals isn't limited to ancient cultures. Places like Stonehenge in England and fairy circles, found around the world, show evidence of ritualistic practices that seem to aim at interacting with the other side. What did these ancients know about Earth's energetic points that we've forgotten? Even in cultures like Hinduism, where sacrifice did not involve blood, there were offerings of food and fire. Texts like the Rig Veda describe ceremonies intended to open channels between worlds. Fire, symbolizing purification and transformation, was seen as a mediator between the human and the divine. But what kind of exchange took place in these seemingly harmless rituals? Another fascinating element is the use of symbols in rituals. From the Eye of Horus in Egypt to the Yantra in Hinduism, geometric patterns were used to amplify spiritual energies. But were these symbols just representations, or did they also play a practical role in creating a bridge between dimensions? In the Bible, Abraham's sacrifice, in which he nearly offers his own son, is one of the most enigmatic accounts. Was this event only a test of faith, or does it point to something larger? Perhaps a revelation about the exchange dynamic that upheld the bond between God and humanity. Even the crucifixion of Jesus Christ is described as the ultimate sacrifice, an act to redeem all humanity. But why was redemption predicated on blood and suffering? This suggests that sacrifice is not merely symbolic, but an intrinsic necessity to renew or break spiritual pacts. Sacrifice rituals have been widely condemned and abandoned in modern times. Yet their symbols and meanings continue to appear in religious and cultural practices. Why do these elements remain, even in societies that claim to be free from such beliefs? Could it be that the forces behind spiritual pacts still demand sacrifices, only in more subtle forms today? What are we offering now, perhaps without realizing it, in exchange for progress and power? The link between sacrifices and spiritual pacts is clear, but will humans ever fully comprehend the price they have paid over the millennia? With advances in technology, humanity has entered a new era. Ancient rituals have given way to digital practices, and altars have been replaced by screens. But have we abandoned spiritual pacts, or merely transformed them into something more subtle? The internet, often described as a web connecting the world, is rife with symbolism related to control and surveillance. A web that connects everything. Look, I don't want to be the conspiracy buzzkill, but this has a total control vibe, doesn't it? Symbols like the all-seeing eye, found in logos and advertising, reappear over and over. Coincidence? Or a reminder that invisible forces are still active, guiding our choices and draining our energy? One of the most intriguing aspects of the digital world is the concept of energy. Though we have no tangible sacrifices, our data and attention are continually offered to large tech corporations. Social media, for example, is designed to capture our attention, using algorithms that keep us connected and dependent. But are we giving more than time and data? Could this be a modern form of tribute? The metaverse, an idea promising unlimited freedom in digital realities, exemplifies this invisible exchange. We pledge to live in a parallel universe where we can create, consume, and interact without restriction. Yet doesn't immersion in these digital spaces disconnect us from the spiritual? Could the metaverse be the new altar, where our essence is offered in exchange for escapism and control? Another point to consider is the omnipresence of spiritual and esoteric symbols in technology. Apple's logo, for instance, has been linked to the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge. What about the name Meta, evoking transcendence and connection with something greater? Are these merely marketing strategies, or is there a deliberate attempt to activate deep archetypes within us? The psychological impact of social media also cannot be ignored. Studies show that platforms like Instagram and TikTok shape our behaviors, desires, and even our beliefs. But who or what truly controls these changes? Could we be unconsciously participating in digital rituals that reinforce ancient spiritual patterns? The emergence of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology adds another layer to the discussion. Some digital coins use names and symbols associated with the occult, such as Lucifer, Baphomet, and Hades, seen in independent projects. Is this just a provocative effort, or are we witnessing a conscious resurrection of esoteric practices in a new format? Artificial intelligence, AI, in turn, is a field that evokes both fascination and fear. Conspiracy theories suggest that AI may be a form of consciousness transcending the human. Some claim it could be a manifestation of interdimensional forces, while others view it as a new mediator between the physical and spiritual worlds. But if AI does surpass human intelligence, whom will it serve? Modern rituals have also taken new forms. We now participate in digital rituals, like sharing memes, watching live streams, and engaging in viral trends. Some theorists assert that memes can be viewed as modern sigils, energetic symbols that spread and influence millions. Is this a new way of channeling collective energy? Even global events, such as the launch of new technologies, appear carefully scheduled on dates laden with astrological or numerological significance. This raises the question, are these patterns merely coincidences, or do they reflect the influence of forces operating beyond our perception? Technological singularity, a concept predicting the moment when AI outstrips human intelligence, is often described as the pinnacle of progress. But what does this moment truly mean? If we become fully dependent on machines, wouldn't that disconnect us from our spiritual essence and draw us into a new contract of submission? Another alarming aspect is the digital world's impact on our spirituality. The disconnection from nature, rising anxiety, and constant search for digital validation are clear signs that something is out of balance. Has our dependence on technology made us vulnerable to influences beyond the tangible? The omnipresence of esoteric symbols and the control exerted by tech corporations suggest that the digital era is not so different from ancient times. There are still invisible forces at work, demanding our attention, energy, and even our essence. Over the centuries, humanity seems to have forged invisible pacts that have shaped its history and destiny. From ancient sacrifices to modern digital rituals, these contracts imply that nothing is given without something in return. Whether in monumental temples or through the algorithms dominating our daily lives, The notion of a spiritual exchange pervades our existence in ways we still struggle to understand. But what are we really offering today? And more importantly, do we still have a chance to break this cycle? Perhaps the answers are hidden in the choices we make every day, in the pursuit of balance between the material and the spiritual. This story is just one piece, and one day, maybe we'll see the whole puzzle. If this also made you think, subscribe and like the video. It helps the channel grow. Don't forget to share. After all, more voices mean more discoveries.